Hi, today we are talking about comedy, specifically stand-up. My guests are David Breitkoff, who is right next to me, and Ted Alexandro. Okay, well, what makes somebody decide to go into stand-up comedy?
I'll go first.
Well, since I'm looking at you.
Well, I was very surprised. I'm a writer. Over the years I've written, and I got into journalism, and I stopped doing like my own personal writing, like short stories and poetry. And then I had an opportunity to start writing again. Instead of writing short stories, I started writing jokes. Can't tell you why. I just started writing, set-up punch all of a sudden. So I thought, well, what the heck, I'll do stand-up comedy. I always enjoyed stand-up comedy, but I never thought I'd actually be on a stage. But I got up the balls. Can you say that?
Yeah.
And and I went on, and that's pretty much, I've enjoyed it ever since. It's a great high to get, to get a laugh from an audience. So I've been doing it ever since. That was about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago.
Ted?
Remarkably, my story is identical to David's. No, actually, I was coming out of college, myself and a friend. We did a two-man act for about 1.5 years. And then I just wanted to try the solo thing. So it's been going well. Been doing it for about 2 years now.
Okay, because we have some common friends, and one of them referred to you as a very serious person, and he didn't, when he found out about it, he was kind of surprised.
He was shocked, probably. Well, I maintain a dual lifestyle. On stage, funny. Off stage, never funny. I try to maintain that duality, duplicity.
Mm. Okay.
I'm the exact opposite.
But is it difficult getting started? How do you go about actually getting up there to begin?
Well, there's like an open mic circuit in Manhattan and
Yes,
the
there
city
is.
and Long Island, and pretty much you just got to show up and write your name down on the list, and eventually you get up and you do your 5 minutes a night, and over time you build up an act. Usually you crash and burn the first half a dozen times. I was very lucky. My first time I ever performed was up in a place called Bananas up in Poughkeepsie, where I was living at the time, and I did 3 minutes. I was very nervous, but I had like an audience of 120 people or something like that. And they laughed at a couple of my jokes, which was great. That was the first time I ever performed. But then the next time I performed in front of a much more jaded New York audience, and everything I said the previous time they didn't laugh at, so it was like, oh man. So it took a while to figure out what was funny and what wasn't funny, at least on the stage.
Mm.
Yeah, I think perseverance is the key, If you get up there one time and say, this is it, if I'm funny, I'm sticking with it. If I'm not, I'm gone. It's not going to work, because I remember my first time solo. I just kind of snuck into the city, small club in the Village, and didn't tell anybody about it. Just wanted to get up there quietly, get out of there quietly, hopefully a few laughs in between. And, similar to what Dave said, a few laughs. The audience was pretty much a jaded New York audience also. But I did get a few laughs, and that was enough to keep me coming back.
You come back in a lot of trial and error until you get it right.
Exactly. Keep writing, keep trying things out. Things that you think are funny, often, miss for some reason. Just keep reworking it until you get it right.
Okay, and are you doing this full-time now, or you still have day jobs?
I do have a day job, a part-time day job. I teach music at PS203. Go Beavers. I don't know if that's their nickname even, but yeah, I teach music at an elementary school, and but I do stand up probably about 4 nights a week at various spots around the tri-state area.
The same thing. I actually also teach. I teach tennis. That's what I've been doing all my life. I've been playing and teaching tennis, and so I do that now. I'm no longer involved in journalism at this time, but and I perform about anywhere between like 3 and 5 or 6 times, depending on what important gigs are coming up or what I end up getting on a weekend. So it depends.
Mm. How do you know? At what point do you think you're going to be doing it full time? And at what level does someone know that they can scrap it, or is it just by what's in the bank account?
At what point? Well, you better be making people laugh. I think that's a good indication.
That's always important.
Yeah.
Laughter, good key.
First, primary.
No laughter, people aren't watching.
I think, well, you know, we probably could be doing it full-time now. It's just a matter of how much do you want to eat, you know? You gotta, you gotta make
Always
money,
a major
too.
consideration.
Right, right.
I think, in fact, is that, you know, both of us have been performing for a while. I think in the 80s, you might have had a situation where, with our acts, we might have been making a lot of money at this point. We might have even had some TV credits. But, you know, things happen, you know, a lot of, as you know, it's pretty common knowledge, comedy clubs have died in the country, and, you know, television, there's so much TV, you know, comedy on television, that it's kind of got, it just kind of wore out its welcome a little bit. So the level of what we're at, I think, would have been easily enough to do TV like in 1986. Today, you have to have like a much more mature act, you know, maybe like working the circuit for 7 to 8 years now, as opposed to like, you know, you had like 3 minutes, you know, suddenly you're on like the Tonight Show. I mean, it was really an amazing period of time in the early 80s. And people keep on streaming in because they think it's still like that, you know?
And
It's
there used
like-
to be a lot of cable
Right.
Opportunities too, like stand-up
Right.
spotlight. A lot of those shows are.
Yeah, it's just like, and the
Gone.
most important thing is there's just not a lot of comedy clubs in the area, you know?
Mm.
And every disco joint in the country that wasn't making money on disco said, hey, let's make it a stand-up comedy place, you know? But we'll keep the mirror ball in the closet just in case comedy dies. And of course, when it did, they brought back, you know, the ball, the mirror ball. So it's like, so that's what's happened in the business. So it's very tough to.
Mm.
But you know, I feel, you know, and I certainly I know Ted pretty well. And I can see his comedy, his act improving, and my act seems to be improving. It's just lately I've been getting more gigs and getting more comedy, you know, paid gigs, which is nice. So I'm saying that's nice. That's a nice, you know, trajectory. I can't tell you, you know, when it's going to stop. I'm enjoying it. So.
Yeah, I think with stand-up, there's no set kind of progression that your career undertakes. You know, I guess if you go into medicine or whatever, you kind of know what you're shooting for, what the next step is. Television, you kind of know what you want to go for next. But with stand-up, you really don't know when the significant progress is going to come, or you know when the breaks are going to come. You know, just things will pop up. You get a gig that's kind of important. You get an audition for something that's important. Like I did the Montreal Comedy Festival this past summer. So you get these little things here and there.
You did.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And yeah, and all of a sudden, you know, you say, okay, well, this is the next step. So you don't really know what this next step is until you're there, and it's like, oh, okay, this is it, you know. And then you just keep going forward.
So yeah, it's good to look at like tapes. I have like tapes of myself from like, you know, a year ago, and like I look at myself and I thought it was a good tape a year ago, and I say, oh, I'm much further ahead than that, you know. So you know you're improving just by being there and continuously coming. It's like anything else that you do. If you do it long enough, you're gonna get better at it. Though I've seen people get worse at it, actually.
Yes, there are documented cases.
And while we're on the subject of tapes, we're going to take a look at a little bit of yours.
Before this, I used to be a reporter for a newspaper, and people always say, "Oh, you were a reporter for a newspaper. That's very interesting." But people don't really like reporters. They don't really trust them, you know. Like one time I went over to a friend's house for dinner. He said, "Dave, it's great to see you." This is off the record, right? Of course it's off the record. Just speak clearly so my flower can hear you. I used to be a cop reporter for the newspaper, and that's like the best job on the paper because you get to listen to the cops all the time. I'd have these police scanners, these police radio scanners, I have to have them glued to my ear because I want to know what the cops are up to at every moment. Sometimes I'd actually get to the scene of a crime before the cops did. One time I got to the scene of a crime before the victim, which was, you know, a little embarrassing because I had to make small talk with the suspect. So you do a lot of killing around this time of year? This is off the record, right?
Okay, what resources do you draw on to come up with new material? Ted?
Well, I tend just to sit down with a notebook and sit there, you know, and just, it's an arduous process. Very often at the end of the process, I'm still looking at a piece of paper with nothing on it. But I try to discipline myself to just do it, you know, just like Dave was saying with performance. I think the same is true of writing. If you want to come out with good stuff, you gotta, I saw Seinfeld actually do an interview where he said 10% of what you do is maybe going to be good. You know, so you got to pump out the other 90 also, and you know, and I think that's true actually. You know, and hopefully you do get that 10%.
You know, it comes out different things. You know, you can be in a conversation with somebody. The problem being a comic, you know, is like you're always constantly saying things, and then it's like, you think that's funny? You think I should put that on? After that while, you just like you know, want to shut up, because of course then your friends are, you know, like, that's pretty good, Dave. You know, put that on the stage. You know, which is annoying. You know.
Right.
But yeah, I would agree with, you know, Ted. It is arduous, and I don't even know how to spell that word, but it's
I
a
don't
good
either,
word.
no, it is.
And but it takes a long time. You know, you do a lot of writing. You listen to your tapes. You know, you record a lot of. We will record our gigs, our shows, and we listen to it. You know, is that funny? You got to listen to the laughs. You know, if it's funny, then you say, okay, I'll say it that way again.
Right.
Really, it's sort of like it doesn't take a lot of brains to figure out how to do comedy. If someone laughs at something, chances are they'll laugh again at it the same way, you know. And then you slowly but surely you write an act. It takes a long time, but you know, you obviously have to be funny a little bit. But you know, but that's you know, comes with the territory.
I think it's, as far as material, I don't really sit down like with a topic, you know. Like you were saying, it comes with maybe through a conversation or just something strikes you as funny. Occasionally, I'm not like, sometimes you'll see in movies, whatever, a guy with, you know, woman slips on ice, you know, like, remember that for later, write bit about that. I don't jot things down like that in the course of the day, but, you know, certain things will trigger the idea for a
I have like all sorts of little pieces of paper, scraps of paper all over my house, and women slips on ice all over the house. Haven't figured out how to write the gig for the
There's something funny there.
No, I think that, you know, as far as like the type of like subject matter, I mean, a lot of it has to do with, you know, with me anyway. It's my own life, and you know, like very often I like to talk about my relationships with women, and that type of work is a big issue with me. I like to talk about work and how difficult that is, and getting fired, something. Not that I ever got fired, just once. No, but you know, that type of thing. You know, I like to talk about real things. I know some comics today, you know, they kind of have bizarre, sort of like surrealistic comedy, like a Stephen Wright, which is great comedy, but you don't feel like that's the person really living that life. But that's, you know, that's one type of form of comedy. I'm more of an observational comic, and I talk about things that actually happen in my life or observations that I see. I think, you know, Ted, you're sort of like that a little bit.
Yeah, I think observational. You know, I think if it's true to who you are and what makes you funny, the audience is going to see that, and that's what they're going to respond to. If it's obvious that, you know, say if somebody works blue, or you know, or just for whatever reason, the audience picks up that it's not honest or it's not true, then the laugh's not going to be there, you know. But I'm not saying that all blue comics, you know, there are some that work blue that's who they are and it comes across as very funny. But that's part of the process too. As you work, your voice starts to kind of emerge, both in your writing and your performance, you know.
Is there a lot of borrowing or sharing of material? Not specifically you, but
Borrowing.
not specifically you, because I know you'd never do something like that. But is it common?
The problem with comedy today is not so much that there's borrowing. There's so much hack material out there, and standard jokes, you know, and like you can hear like O.J. Simpson jokes at this point are like is so common right now, and you don't know really who wrote the joke or not, you know, and it's very easy. And again, the subject matter, like, you know, sex is obviously a very common subject matter, and talking about that, it's very difficult to stay away from things that have been said about sex. I mean, it's been around for a couple of months, so sex, you know,
That
tends to
long.
be, yeah, at least maybe I'm undercutting it, but. It's a while, you know, and the point is that, you know, if you talk about that stuff, type of thing, and you need to talk about that subject a little bit in nightclubs, because, you know, you get couples in there and they enjoy that type of thing, and they sort of expect it. So you end up talking about that. Of course, you don't have to. You can talk about anything you want. But I mean, just saying that, you know, when you have that type of subject matter, you get limited. Sometimes, I think sometimes comics end up talking about airplanes and, you know, and their parents and that type of thing, and it becomes very similar to each other, so which is like an unfortunate period of time right now we're going through, where the comedy is very similar. Not even question about, you know, stealing. There's plenty of stealing going on, I'm sure, you know, and I see jokes that are the variations of it, but I don't think that's a major problem. You know, I don't think it's a major problem where in the circles that I perform in.
What was the question?
I'm sorry, I shut my trap. Okay.
Hey, do you have any particular people who have influenced your style or role models, idols?
I like Woody Allen. Woody Allen was the reason I got into comedy in the first place. I mean, I've always enjoyed his comedy. I don't emulate his lifestyle necessarily, but I thought he was great. I thought the guy made me laugh, and I do like Stephen Wright. I don't perform like them. I don't write jokes like them at this point. Seinfeld is very impressive, and so I like a lot of comics, but those are the type of people that I, very intelligent comedy, I think, is important. And if it makes me think, then it pleases the brain, then I laugh. If it's like, dirty humor or blue humor, then, then after a couple minutes, like, okay, I've heard that before, it's not impressing. So.
Yeah, I think with me, the same guys. I always liked a well-written joke or something that the joke kind of evolves, and Woody Allen was great with that. Also, George Carlin, Bill Cosby. Growing up, like, my parents had a few comedy albums around the house. Bill Cosby, Flip Wilson.
Robert Klein's great.
Yeah, so those are the, not necessarily that I patterned myself after these guys, but they were the first guys that kind of put the spark in me that, oh, wow, they just talk and people laugh, huh? It's pretty cool.
Is there anyone in particular that you want to be nothing like?
Dave, really, just, nah.
We're too similar as it is.
We are very similar.
You should have gotten like a Sam Kinison here, that would be a maniac in the middle here with long hair and greasy
Right.
fingers and...
Well, actually, they're the same person. We're using a split screen.
That's right.
The evil twin.
Well, I mean, obviously you want to be a comic for me, I'm looking to be a comic who can play in any room, in any situation, and be able to have TV credits and have, be able to get on television. So you're going to have to be you can't be too blue, you can't be dirty, and you need to be intelligent, you need to be somewhat original, and so you can't necessarily be like anybody, particularly,
Yeah, that's
because
true.
if you're too like somebody, then they're not going to say, well, we saw him last month. So you have to be very careful about that, and I think that's when you really get to the highest level of the game, is when you're saying things that haven't really been said before, and intelligently, I think. So.
Okay. And we're going to take a look at Ted's tape now.
Being single, I often think about my future wife and how lax she's been about getting in touch with me. I don't know who my future wife will be, but I do know some of the qualities I'd like her to possess. And strangely, all of those qualities can be found in the girl working the counter at every Chinese takeout place I've ever been to. They're always very pretty, polite, bilingual, good at math. And they always have a sad longing in their eyes. Or at least I project a sad longing into their eyes. Now, I'm not saying I want a piece of the family business. I'm not even sure I can ride a bike and balance soup at the same time. All I'm saying is give me a shot. We can make it work.
Okay, we spoke a little bit about blue comedy, and these are so-called PC times. Where do you draw the line as far as what's going too far?
Well, I would say that obviously talking about certain things like AIDS, you got to be. It's not like you can't talk about anything. It's just that you have to be sensitive to one of the audience. I mean, if you're smart, you can be a good comic should be able to read an audience, and should be able to say, get a sense of what they're capable of accepting, in comedy. A lot of audiences are very PC. They're very concerned, like if you say something nasty, and it's hard always to know that until sometimes you do step over the line. But I think it's more important that the comic himself or herself have a set of standards that they're not going to write about. I don't write incest jokes. I mean, it's not that I can't. I'm afraid of an incest joke. It's just that I just don't find it to be interesting. But a lot of comics in New York, a lot of New York comics are just like, you know, enthralled with incest jokes. To me, it doesn't mean anything, so I don't write them. You know, so that'd be the type of thing that I wouldn't, you know, write about.
Yeah, I think he's right, and also it depends on the angle that you take. Like, incest, not funny. Midgets, not funny. Incestuous midgets.
Getting funnier.
Right, so it depends on the way that it's presented.
Of course, if you're in a circus, that you're performing for a circus, maybe not so funny.
That's true. That is very true.
Have you ever accidentally crossed it? And
Yeah, I've gotten groans from audiences every now and then. But,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, you just gotta, if you think it's funny, try it, you know?
Groans and darts, you know.
Yeah, you gotta
At the
just
head.
dodge.
Sure, everybody gets like, you know, everybody, as a beginner, you know, and essentially, I've been doing it for 3.5 years, I still think, as a comic said to me, you're sort of like in comedy college, you know, you got 4 years, you sort of graduate. You know, you're gonna make a lot of mistakes. I'm sure I'll be making mistakes well past, you know, 3.5 years, so
It's part of the
you
fun,
learn.
really, I think, you know?
So, you know,
Every time you get out there, you know, it's different.
you
you know,
know,
but if I get a groan on a joke, I'm probably gonna think, well, maybe that's not something I wanna say, you know? Even though I know I'm going to get a reaction to it, you know, if it's going to get me a groan or a kind of a boo or something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes you don't know. Sometimes you don't know. I did a couple O.J. Simpson jokes I thought were funny, and I got this kind of that was like early on, you know, when the
Before
first
people were sick
happened,
of
you
it.
know, when the initial impact when the murders happened, you couldn't almost. He was like, you know, sacrilegious to say anything bad about O.J. Simpson. Now, of course, you know, if you say anything nice about O.J. Simpson, they'll boo you. So things change, you know.
What was the worst experience you ever had performing?
I'll let you go with that one first.
Ironically, it involved midgets. No, it didn't. I don't know. I haven't had any like deathly experiences where I wanted to give up the business. I've had bad gigs where I drove out to some place in Jersey and people did not find me funny, and that was the extent of it. You know.
I performed that same
Did
club.
you do that? Yeah.
That same exact club. I don't know where it is, but it's definitely there.
I get booked there pretty often. I'm a regular. No, but I mean, it's common sense. If you have a few of those in a row, you got to say, all right, maybe there's something wrong here. Fortunately, I've been pretty consistent, and just keep getting back up on the comedy horse and seeing where she takes you.
I was at this happened a couple of nights ago. I was at this kind of hip performance art place in Manhattan, and they don't really like comics too much. And there was very crowded, but there was this guy there who was totally drunk, hanging out with a beer, and you could tell he was drunk. And his expressions for every performer was hysterical. So at one point, I finally got up. I said, "I've enjoyed a lot of the performers, and Vic, I've enjoyed." And he said, "F you! You're wearing plaid. Don't even talk to me." But he really screamed it. I was like, okay. So, and I thought he was going to throw his beer bottle at me or something like that. But, that was a pretty bad experience. I mean, I didn't even say anything. I said, I don't even talk to me, So.
Well, at least that was based on your attire. And
I wasn't wearing plaid.
It must have been the beer. Okay, flip side of that, the best experience.
The best experience is just, I'm not going to give a specific moment, but just that moment when the crowd's with you, you're getting laughs, everybody's right there, that you can feel the room is listening to you, and it's just a kind of a clarity there. That's the best
Absolutely,
moment.
when you're at that moment, that's the whole reason why I'm in the game, is that when you're in that moment where, you say one thing and they laugh big, and then you say something else and they just laugh big, and just keep on building, and everything you say comes out of your mouth they just think is hysterical. It's a great feeling. I'm sure anybody who's ever made somebody laugh knows what that feeling is, and I guess comics crave that more than like the average human being, because they just feel it's necessary for that kind of feeling. And it is great when you just know you have the audience wrapped around your finger, and you can pretty much take them anywhere and see almost anything. And even if you bomb at a joke, maybe during the act, that you're going to get them back with something else. It doesn't matter. You have that type of confidence, so it's a great feeling.
Okay, briefly closing up, long-term career goals. Where do you want to be 5 years from now?
Right here, baby. Right here.
I'm gonna come back here. I mean, obviously.
Butterflies, stars, this is what I want to be.
Right. But I obviously, doing television by that time, hopefully. But I think just continuing in the game, just doing it and getting better at it. I'm not really worried about it. I'm not going to say, gee, if I'm not in 5 years, I'm not on television, am I going to just quit? If I'm not enjoying it, I might not be in it. But if I'm enjoying it, I still like the fact that it's getting a laugh, I'll stay. Keep on doing
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Just trying to get better and enjoy the journey, man. See where it takes me.
it. Hopefully making some money.
That'd be nice.
In the journey.
That would be nice.
All right, well, I'd like to thank you very much for joining me. David Brykov, Ted Alexandro. Look for them at a club near you. Go see them. We're going to take it out. We went to Nancy's Fireside Restaurant in Floral Park, and we asked some of you people to tell us your favorite joke. And before the credits, we're going to take a look at that. See you next time.
Okay, there was this guy, he walked into a tattoo parlor and asked the tattoo artist if it was possible that he'd be able to tattoo the picture of $1,000 on his penis. So the guy goes, yeah, sure, that's possible, but can I ask you a question? The heck would you want a picture of a tattoo of $1,000 on your penis for? He says, for 3 simple reasons. First reason is I like to play with my money. Second reason is I like to watch my money grow. Third reason is next time my wife says she's going to go out and blow $1,000, I'm going to tell her just to stay home.
Why'd the blonde lose her job at the sperm bank?
Why?
You really want to know why? Because her employees discovered she was embezzling.
They messed me up. I got messed up. Can I do it over?
Okay, there's this guy. He's got a slow daughter. She talks a little funny. She talks like this. So he says to his daughter, I'm going to give you a special job. I'm going to send you to the fish market. I want you to go there and order 5 pounds of mackerel. So she's all excited. She goes, okay, Daddy. So she walks up to the fish market. She goes to the fish guy. She says, I want 5-pound mackerel. So the fishmonger there says, listen, miss, I'm sorry, I couldn't understand what you said. Can you say it again? She says, I want 5-pound mackerel. He says, miss, I'm sorry, one more time, maybe I'm not hearing right. Again, she says, I want 5-pound mackerel. So he says, listen, do me a favor, write it down on a paper, go back to your parents and, give me the letter. So she's all nervous, she don't want to let her father down. She turns around, she lifts up her skirt, she pulls out a snap and he goes, holy mackerel. She goes, 5 pound.
A guy walks into a bar, sees a whole bunch of $20 bills laying out on the table. So he orders a beer, and he says, excuse me, I don't mean to be nosy, but what are all these $20 bills doing on the bar? So the guy goes, I got a horse in the back. Anybody who can make my horse laugh can have all these $20 bills. So the guy goes, I'll give it a shot, puts $20 bill up on the bar, walks in the back, comes back, starts picking up all the $20 bills. So the bartender goes, hold on, runs in the back, the horse is hysterical laughing. So the guy goes, all right, you can take the $20 bills. A week later, the guy walks back into the same bar, and there they are again, all these $20 bills. So the guy orders another beer, says, not to be nosy, but what are all these $20 bills doing on the bar? So he says, anybody who can make my horse stop laughing can have all these $20 bills. So he goes, I'll give it a shot, throws a $20 bill up on the bar, walks in the back, comes back, starts picking up all the $20 bills. So the bartender says again, wait a minute, runs in the back, the horse is crying, he's in tears. So the guy comes back in and says, all right, you can have all these $20 bills, but let me just ask you, what did you say to the horse to make him start laughing and then start crying? So the guy said it was simple. I told the horse I had a bigger dick than him, and then I showed him.
We're on? Testing. What do you call a 300-pound woman?
Fat.
This lady goes to the gynecologist. She says, hey, doc, how come you don't have any night hours? I'm trying to get an appointment at night. He goes, hey, I got a second job at night. She goes, oh, yeah, what is it? He goes, well, I'm a magician. She goes, oh, wow, I love magic. Show me a trick. He goes, nah, I don't mix the two. She goes, come on, please, just show me one trick. He goes, all right, listen, jump down off the table. Bend over. Says, you feel my thumb in your rear end? She goes, yeah. He says, ta-da!
If there's a subject that you think is worth talking about, write us at Box 20713, Floral Park, New York, 11002-0713. Thanks a lot.
Is that all right?
That's great. I really appreciate it. Thanks a
Thank you,
lot.
sweetie.